Is it a bit like a jungle in here now?
The cucumber.
Is there? Yeah. Right, so what are we now? End of August. It's kind of like tomato time. But really, the whole veg plot as a whole, we've just really let slip this year, and it is a bit of a mess and neglected. That said, there's enough here to get a bit of a harvest each day, but there's also a few problems, so I'll show you what we've got going on. Yeah, so that's one of the problems. Mixed up all of our tomatoes again, so we kind of got some beef tomatoes, cherry and regular, but as you can see, beef tomatoes have got blossom end rot. Nearly all of them have, and that's just a deficiency. I think it's calcium. So unfortunately they will end up as chicken food, unless it's only a tiny bit and we can get away with it. Some of them seem to be getting away with it, but you can see already there's a bit of a evidence. So I'm still feeding and watering them as much, but I think it's more to do with the fact that we container grow all our tomatoes, so the watering isn't as regular as it would be if they were in ground. Cherries don't seem to suffer as much, do they? But
pick some up. Put them in here.
Yeah.
You pick them and I'll put them in here.
These cherry tomatoes don't suffer as much, but they do split because of the irregular watering. As soon as you kind of they dried out a bit and then you give them a good water, they kind of bulge and split. But what we tend to do is use those and we make a really nice batch of sauce and we freeze it down. So anything that's red, girls, you just need to pick. Oi, don't eat them all. A little bit split, but just be careful when you pick them. Like you're going to snap. Another culprit, another chicken food. Look at that one's gone bad. So I had the chickens in here for a few days back in the spring, so there was some shavings in here, and any tomatoes that have fallen off, the seeds have popped out, and we've got all these tomato plants. And if only our season was longer here in the UK, we could just keep all of this going all year round, because they're just kind of perpetual, really, the way that they seed themselves. When you get a harvest like this and it's kind of hit and miss and you know you haven't got the maximum out of all the plants, you kind of think, is it really worth it? But from a sums financial point of view, with 3 packs of seeds, I never spend more than £2 a pack. So that's £6, and I think we only probably use about 3 bags of compost, bearing in mind that I use a lot of our own. So really we've probably spent, well, less than £20 on everything. So it's really just down to your time, because we've already, well, I mean, we must have picked 30 cucumbers already, so we're quids in already with the cucumbers. But yeah, it is a bit of a time-consuming chore, especially when they're in these buckets. They work great, we can move the polytunnel if we need to. However, the watering, unless we've got an irrigation system, the watering is not consistent enough, and that's why these tomatoes, I think, suffer. Cucumbers had a bit of a pause recently, but they're back on form now. I reckon we'll probably get another half a dozen out of them this year. I need my secateurs, I think. Get a cucumber. Go careful, there you go. Put it down in there, but don't squish your tomatoes. And then in the middle here, where we had all sorts of caterpillar issues early on, which I think were moths. Anyway, we pinched off what we could, and then they kind of came to an end, and the peppers kind of survived. But I don't know, it's the first time we've done peppers, and I haven't really done anything to these plants. I'm hoping that they're just going to ripen off on there, but if anyone's got any tips for these, they are red peppers. This one's turning. See, that one's gone bad as well. That's another chicken food, but that was obviously ripening on there. Do they get blossom end rot like tomatoes? Don't think so, but anyway, any tips on those, let us know. That's ready. Have that one?
Yeah, hold that one.
That's alright, we're gonna have a little mark on it.
Teamwork. First giving them to me and then we'll give them to Faith.
Good teamwork, good teamwork. Look at this. Every one of them. I've been feeding them. Well, chickens are going to do well. Put that one in. We'll try and ripen it in the window. This one's alright. We'll take it. Oh, it's strong. It's a monster. Oh. Look at that. These ones you can slice up and put in your sandwich. They fill the whole sandwich. What I really need to do at this point now in the year is I need to start cutting back all the foliage at the bottom, anything under the last truss, chop off the tops of all the plants so that they're not trying to produce new fruit, because there's still trusses and flowers coming on these, and there's no way in our rainy UK autumn that they're ever going to ripen. So we need to chop them off and just concentrate all the energy and water into the fruit that's left. Come on then girls, it's the rotten tomato challenge. Pick them all up and then feed them to the chickens. You wish you were a chicken?
Yeah, because then I get...
Yeah, but do you like rotten tomatoes, do you?
Not chicken, but if I was a chicken.
If you were a chicken and you did like rotten tomatoes, you'd be loving it. The problem is, girls, all of these tomatoes will go into the chicken pen, and we'll have tomato plants growing up everywhere next year from all the seeds. Alright, that's it. Let's go. No, one at a time. Or should I just tip them in?
Tip them in. So,
yeah.
I'll take one out. I'll take one out. So one, two.
The rest we'll just chip on top. Oh, that's a really silly idea. They're too big. You gonna go? Oh, they'll go. They'll go.
They're probably wanting the grass instead.
So with the chickens, the way we manage that during the summer is, in the winter they have full reign over the garden pretty much, and then in the summer, because we want the lawn to remain pretty clean of chicken poo, they come into the pen, and although that seems a bit backwards in terms of farming, usually you bring stuff in the winter, it works out for us really well, and especially because we mow the lawn maybe twice a week in the middle of summer, and all of that trimmings comes into here. It's normally about 20 baskets or buckets off the back of the mower. So this just builds up, and they're basically on grass all the time anyway, and it becomes like a compost factory. They churn it over, as well as all of our household waste and all of the wood shavings out of the workshop. So you've got all that carbon from the kiln dried stuff coming out the planer. Then you've got all the wood chip, all the veg and grass going in here, and the whole thing kind of gives a pretty balanced compost. And then our really overgrown raised bed here, anything that goes to seed just gets ripped out and stuck straight in here. So spinach especially, they just love, but even like all this pak choi and chard that we just kind of let go wild, they love a bit of that. So we just push it through, and that's like their daily greens, and they do just fine on all that. See, look, there's a tomato in there. But where did that even come from? You can pull that whole plant out. Yeah. We'll give it a shake. Where did that come from? Oh my goodness, it even had tomatoes on. Maybe we should have left it. So little update on the raised bed. Rocket, that's its third cut, and it's kind of gone to seed now, but yeah, we might pick around and get a bit out of that. Marigolds. We love these orange flowers now, don't we, girls?
What are they?
They're called marigolds, but we planted them, and all the bees fly in because they see the orange.
I'm going on the trampoline.
Go on then, go on the trampoline.
Do they like orange?
Yeah, bees love anything colourful, so that's why I threw a load of these in there. But they've lasted all year. And look at that, it just looks amazing. I'm going to plant a whole bed of this just as a floral display in the garden. We don't actually eat it when it gets to this point really, but that's just the most vibrant colour in the garden. In here was a lovely, luscious new sowing of mixed leaves, but one of the chickens got out when we gave them a day on the garden last week, and yeah, sorted that out. Bit of chives left, and then our blank bit here. So we really need to get in some salads so we can get a few crops out before winter. And what I do like with a raised bed system is you can, as long as it's 30 centimeters high or more, you can run the ducks through in the winter, and they don't really bother getting up into here, and they just patrol around for slugs and snails. So you can have a pretty good system using ducks and raised beds. Now this is where it takes a turn for the worst. I apologise for any gardeners out there. I'd like to say this was a wild garden. Well, it is, but not intentionally. Beans have cropped already. We've taken off what we wanted, and now they just, we could dry these and replant them, but I got enough. So all of that will just go straight into the chicken pen. All of this, well, I don't know what's there. That's mainly cuttings from the hedge. I'm gradually taking this hedge out here. I had the girls helping me out, helping me take it out a few weeks back, and then I had to stop, but I will be taking all of that out and moving the shed soon. As we move across, again, volunteer tomatoes just like popping up everywhere. So, you know, I'm not going to rip out stuff, we'll leave it for a couple of weeks. What happens happens. All this sort of brassicas is basically all that survived the pigeons. There's a few, there's like half a dozen cabbages, a few collie, and I think these are the broccoli at the back here. Yeah, that looks like a broccoli on the way there. And then there's a row of swede in here, which I kind of forgotten about, but they seem to be surviving. Sunflowers been and gone. We'll dry those off, then go on the bird table. And then we've got the courgettes, which have gone all powdery and mildewy. But I haven't even checked these for weeks really. Oh, hang on, there's a, oh yeah, and that's what happens. You just can't leave these things alone. Don't look any further, we'll probably find a monster in here. Actually, Joe's been making like a puree of courgette and just sneaking it in most meals. Whether it's lasagna or a tomato sauce or something, you don't really notice it, and it can't be bad for us to just have a courgette a day. There's another one there. This plant seems to stop and then just reburst into life. Oh, hang on. I thought this one was finished. My goodness me. It's what I feared. A monster from the deep. Oh, my goodness me. What on earth do we do with that? Don't say roasted marrow. I know what we could do with it, but it's what I want to do with it. And I have an idea for that. I'm being summoned. There's a massive spider in the sandpit. What's going on? Emergency, Spider-Man here.
I don't know where it's gone.
Oh, it's probably crawled out. I think you're okay. But where were we? I think we got to the raspberries. They're kind of coming to the end as well, but there's loads left on here. So each day we come and get our fruity little breakfast, when we remember at least. And those that go over just get chucked behind us straight into the chickens. Yes, in essence, the point of today's video is to show you that we're not always winning here at the Restoration Couple house. We quite often have the messy side you don't see, and the veg garden and the garden as a whole is what that is at the moment. I mean, look at this. Look at that thistle grew to 10 foot before we haven't even taken it down yet. It's just, yeah, we're fighting a losing battle when it comes to weeds. The other aspect of the garden farm, which I haven't even mentioned, is our chicken and meat and egg production. And that's been pretty much a success this year. The chickens that we've got now, we get 4 or 5 eggs a day, which will taper off soon, which is fine for us. You know, we've got 5 of us in the house, plus, you know, any extra goes to friends or a dog, or, you know, if you have more chickens than that, you really kind of, you have a surplus all the time. Oh, hi. Just talking to myself. But as far as the meat side of things went, we started off this year, we did a batch of 20. We had a really good yield of meat from them. They're always pretty challenging to rear because they're more of a meat strain, hybrid strain. But we managed 3 or 4 weeks under a heat lamp because it was still pretty cold, and they had moved out into the shed, and then we had the whole of the veg garden free at that time of year. So they had that whole area and by the time that they were ready, I mean, we had times when I let them out into the lawn, and if you ever see 20 huge white chickens hitting the lawn for the first time, that's a funny sight, so I think I'll try and dig out that footage. If you want to learn more about that, I'm happy to go through what it took to do that, the space involved, how much it cost, how much we got from it as far as the meat went, the weights. Because a few people have asked. I haven't intended to do a video on that just simply because I really haven't got the time and effort to start answering to vegans every day. I understand where they're coming from, but there are far greater problems in the world than well looked after, hand-reared, garden-reared chickens, treated with respect. I was a vegetarian for 7 years because of what I thought about it at the beginning. Now I've come to realise that if you're going to eat meat, you may as well manage it yourself, eat less of it, and have a respect for the animal. So, you know, hold on to your comments until you've got an understanding of our setup here and why we chose to do what we did. But if you want to learn more about how we do the meat birds and that side of things, then let me know down below and maybe I can put a video together. Any questions about anything you've seen in the garden farm, the veg garden, all that, stick them down below. Any other videos you want to see out in the garden, if they are doable, then let us know as well. But that's it. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself. I will see you next time.